in the Manzil to make individual rooms for the mandali. But after the departure of most of the men, the partitions were taken down. Within a few days, the Manzil was restored to its original condition. Still remaining with Meher Baba was his brother Jal, his uncle and cousin Masaji, and Asfandiar, Adi, and Rustam Kiarani, Babu Saikarwala, Baidul, Barso, Ramji, Ferdun, Nervous, Kustaji, and Slamson. Each man was engaged most of the time in selling the Marathi edition of Vipaji Maharaj's biography, which Circle and Company had recently published. During October 1922, Meher Baba had led the mandali to Kalyan to visit the shrine of Haji Malang Shah, but failing to reach it, he had vowed to revisit the tomb of the great Mohammedan saint. To fulfill this promise, the master, with a few of the remaining mandali, went to Kalyan from Bombay on April 13, 1923. Ghani, Ramjoo, and Kak Sahib met them there according to previous instructions. At 2:30 in the morning, they left Kalyan in Tungus for the mountain where the saint's tomb was situated. Reaching its base, Baba stayed there with Sadashiv Patel and sent the rest of the men up the mountain to bow down and offer homage at the tomb on his behalf. The men placed a veil of flowers on the Mohammedan saint's dargah. They also read from a Fatiha, as instructed by Baba. The excursion took 2.5 hours. When they returned, Baba gave them bread and sweets to eat, but forbade them to drink water. They were thirsty after the long hike and were only thinking of water when they reached where Baba was waiting. Contrary to their expectations, he handed them dry bread and sweets, but they could not relish his prasad, as their throats were so dry. Baba explained that the water there was polluted. They then rode in the horse tongas on the return journey. It was intensely hot, as this was the month of April, the middle of India's summer. Their thirst increased during their bumpy ride, and after covering 14 miles, they reached Kalyan in the afternoon. In the village, they were permitted to quench their thirst with soda water. Baba then handed each slices of watermelon, and they were satisfied at last. Baba and the other men took a local train back to Bombay, while Ramjoo and Ghani returned to After reaching Bombay, the main house of Manzil-e-Meem was handed over to the landlord, and a small house at the back was kept for the office of Circle and Company. At Baba's request, any matters dealing with the flour mill were disposed of. All were hurriedly packing their luggage to get ready for their journey to Ahmednagar and the beginning of a new phase in Meher Baba's work. 2 days before leaving the Manzil on April 17th, Meher Baba graced the marriage ceremony of Naval Dina Talati. Baba went to their house in a tanga before the wedding started and called them outside on the road, where he lovingly blessed them. He then rode back to the Manzil without attending the Parsi ceremony. To summarize Manzil-e-Meem, prior to the 10-month stay in Bombay, Meher Baba's relationship with the mandali had been one that existed between good friends. Those who acknowledged him to be their master or guru were unaware of the significance and absolute necessity of obedience to his orders. In Manzil-e-Meem, this relationship completely changed. The mandali were made to be aware that Meher Baba was their lord and master, thereby establishing the relationship that exists between any spiritual perfect master and his disciples. In different ways, the mandali learned the paramount importance of obeying Meher Baba's instructions. He would constantly impress upon them how important it was to obey his every command, no matter how insignificant it might appear. In matters of spirituality, too, Meher Baba had imparted much esoteric wisdom. The mandali were now not only dreaming of finding the ancient spirituality hidden in the Himalayas, but knew a fresh dispensation of spiritual life and truth was embodied in Meher Baba. The fire of enthusiasm inside them had been ignited, urging them to venture the ascent beyond the Himalayas. Through discourses, the Master had outlined the inner path and divine love, explaining the wisdom of both Hindu, Vedantism, and Islamic Sufism, and the mandali each day had become more enlightened, united in spirit with every religion. In Manzil-e-Meem, they had also accepted being away from their homes, and thus remained detached from their families. They were given the opportunity of living with men of different religions and communities, something none of them had ever done before. and Meher Baba's camaraderie, they were inspired to share their various individual differences, prejudices, and respective likes and dislikes, for the general benefit and welfare of all. During this phase of their discipleship, Meher Baba prepared the mandali for future strenuous training, which would not have been possible without having spent these preliminary months living with him in Manzil-e-Meem.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Avta Meher Baba ki jai. Avta Meher Baba ki jai. Avta Meher Baba ki jai. Thank you. Next week, Ahmednagar and Ahmednagar.
See this beautiful picture.
Ahmednagar.
And this side.
Okay, we're here on November the 6th, 1996. It's Lord Meher night. It's Wednesday, and we're reading from Bhau Kalchuri's work, Lord Meher, the biography of the Avatar of the Age, Meher Baba. Volume 2 covers the years 1922 to 1925, and we're beginning in a new chapter. It's the Ahmednagar and Ahmednagar chapter in Meher Baba's life. He's just left Bombay, Manzil-e-Meem, and he's headed for Ahmednagar. It begins, leaving memories behind, Meher Baba and the remaining 13 men left Manzil-e-Meem on the night of April 19th for Ahmednagar. The train was crowded, and their compartment was packed with luggage and other passengers. Amidst this bustle, strangers did not recognize who was in their presence, and the men did not realize his purpose. Yet our age observed Bau's words, O Ahmednagar. None of the mandali had any idea they were on their way to a land which was to become the ever-flowing spring of mercy. Its cooling waters would quench mankind's inner thirst. Bau. Meher Baba's relatives, Ramjoo Abdulla, the Kasba Peth mandali, and devoted fishermen boy station to joyously receive the Lord of Lords. Baba was profusely garlanded and crowned with flowers, while the mandali were served refreshments. The train left Poona at 7:30 a.m. on the 20th of April and reached Ahmednagar a few hours later. Meher Baba stayed in Ahmednagar at Gulmai K. Rani's residence in KHUSHRU quarters. KHUSHRU quarters. And there's a footnote here. It says, KHUSHRU quarters is now known as Meher Nazar, where the offices of Avatar Meher Baba Charitable Trust are located on King's Road in Ahmednagar. All right. Yeah.
Father's house.
Oh, isn't that nice? KHUSHRU, huh?
KHUSHRU quarters was where they stayed.
Except for this family of Gulmai, Rustum, Adi, Feroja, Dali, and cousin Sarosh, no one else in the Zoroastrian community there respected Meher Baba as a spiritual guru. The Irani relatives staying in the large compound of KHUSHRU quarters constantly ridiculed Gulmai's devotion to Meher Baba. But the master kept Gulmai and her family under the protective shelter of his Nazar, which means his grace, watchful eye. He had revealed his divinity to them to such a profound extent that, despite severe opposition against him, they would always remain at his feet, obedient to him no matter what. Due to her relatives' disbelief and opposition, Gulmai underwent terrible mental suffering, but she remained steadfast to Meher Baba's divine love and did not argue with them. For several days, Meher Baba and the men walked through the predominantly Muslim community of Ahmednagar, exploring the area. During his stay at KHUSHRU quarters, he remained secluded for 7 days. Adi and Gustaji attended to his personal needs, while Gulmai prepared curry with curd or yogurt for him. During this seclusion, Baba instructed Gulmai to keep an oil lamp burning day and night in the room designated as Upasni Maharaja's. One day, Adi told her that Baba appeared pale, and she thought it was due to the fasting. Soon after, the master called her and said, I have not become weak. I do not feel any weakness. I am as strong as ever. Then he added, I had gone to attend a meeting. Gulmai wanted an explanation, but he only remarked, It was a meeting of the perfect ones. After saying this, Baba began to sing to her. Sabir Tirai Kalyaki Nagariyan. O Sabir, your city of Kalayar is holy. On April...
What did you say? Do you know?
Huh?
Suha? What did you say?
Some of it I don't understand. Sabir.
That's the man's name?
Yeah, Sabir.
What does that mean?
Patient.
His name?
That's Persian.
Sabr Peth, Irani is the patient, not Sabr.
It's a name? His
Name
name?
too, yeah.
Yeah, because he's going, oh, Sabir, your city.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Kandiyar. So it refers to some place in Iran, not Persia.
Well, I guess that's what it's, the second line is. The
Kiri
first one.
means what? Kalyar ki Nagariyan. Nagar means town. So I guess, oh, that's the translation.
Yeah, right there, yeah,
The
okay.
city of Kalyar is holy
The city of Kalyar.
in English. O Sabir, your city of Kalyar is holy is the translation of the previous line.
This Gulma is his Baba's spiritual mother. And I read the same one.
Adi's real.
Yeah, but Baba's spiritual mother.
Yes.
And that I had this book one time, I forget the name of it, it's out of print, and it said when she passed away, Baba came to her grave and showered her with roses. Gulma. And
Oh,
have an
beautiful.
avatar shower your grave with roses.
Yeah.
Does it? In the Burmese?
On April 30th, Baba took a long hike with the mandali to a place called Happy Valley, north of Ahmednagar. Legend has it that during Lord Ram's wanderings, Sita and Laxman had stayed in Happy Valley for some time. Meher Baba stayed in the Dak bungalow, a government rest house. Since some of the wedding guests had followed him, the food being sent from Ahmednagar was not sufficient, and extra vegetables had to be prepared. This inconvenienced the men the next 3 days, which were supposed to be spent relaxing, playing cards or games, and listening to bhajans. During their stay in Happy Valley, Brother Jal told him an amusing story about Aspandiar's japa, a repetition of God's name, in the Manzil-e-Meem. Jal said, every morning I used to watch Aspandiar sit for meditation. Due to the mosquitoes and his sleepiness, his body would sway back and forth. He moved like a pendulum. Baba laughed at this and decided to nickname his cousin Pendulum, which was shortened to Pendu. And Aspandiar was called by that name ever after. So that's how Pendu got his name. Jal was
beautiful.
So, Jal was always filled with humorous stories and related another. He said that Faradun was once sitting on the veranda of the Manzil when, finding no one near, he passed gas so loudly, Jal thought a firecracker had exploded.
My Baba,
No, Padre.
next to Baba, I mean Baba heard that.
No, he was next to Baba's brother, Jal. And Jal is telling Baba this story. Baba again laughed when he heard this story and called out to Faradun, hey, Padaria. From what? Padaria, from the Gujarati word payad, to which, Pad, which Faradun responded. Someone else chimed in, Baba, Faradun is so tall and solemn that he looks like a Christian padre or priest. Baba said to Faradun, from today your name is Padre. That's so funny. It all started with a little bit of art.
Oh,
he dropped the F.
Pod in it.
Oh.
But what does this pod mean? Pod?
Means
the Gujarati word?
Means to art.
What?
it means to
Yes,
fart.
yeah.
It means to fart.
Oh, how funny. How funny.
One afternoon, Baba walked in the veranda and saw Slamson, Padre, and another one of the men
I know, but I need the word.
casually
Pod?
talking with the keeper of the Shiva temple. He immediately sent someone to inquire as to what they were doing by that temple and what they were discussing. The three men went to Baba and explained that they were simply passing the time talking about God, religion, and spirituality. Very good, exclaimed Baba. All right. Now the three of you, take your baggage and get out.
Oh!
Go and make that man your guru.
Oh!
From this moment on, I am not your guru. Our connections are severed. Whew. Baba was extremely angry, and the three culprits stood before him frightened, pleading to be forgiven. They promised they would not do it again. You heard me. Get out of my sight, he shouted. After piercing them with his eyes, he said, You act like fools. You have left your homes and dear ones to join me. You have now lived with me for more than a year. If you are following me, you are to do as I tell you. Why did you go to that temple? Never, never go to anybody else. He will mislead you. Then he repeated, You want to follow me, don't you? Then why did you go there? Suppose that man gave some explanation or some kind of advice, or an order contrary to mine. Which would you follow? They kept quiet. Baba then exhorted them, You have made me your master. In turn, I've promised you I will never let you sink.
Remember we started our readings? Oh, it was Upasani Maharaj's birthday. Remember? The day we were going to... We read.
Upasani Maharaj's birthday was observed by Meher Baba on May 3rd, 1923 at Happy Valley. The mandali fasted for 24 hours according to his instructions and cooked food for the poor of a nearby village, which Baba served until late in the evening. After this mass feeding, the men, along with the Hindu villagers, sang Upasani Maharaj's Arti. A few of Meher Baba's mandali had been sent to Sikori for the celebration. Upasani Maharaj, seated in his bamboo cage, which was called the Pinjra, told Golmai to perform his arti that day. During the puja ceremony, Maharaj put his legs out of the cage so devotees could touch his feet for darshan. When the crowd became large, Maharaj, for the first time in over a year, came out of the cage and sat on a drum underneath the pandal tent. As people came for his darshan, they presented him with gifts which Gulmai and Naja, Kudu's wife, collected. After some time, the crowd became unmanageable, and the police had to be called to keep order and regulate the lines of people for darshan. A palanquin procession in Maharaj's honor circled him for hours.
What does this mean?
And then bhajans were sung into the late night.
Does anybody know what that is?
Palanquin?
What is it?
Palanquin is like a chair that people can
Oh.
Oh, it's a chair. Okay.
China.
Mm-hmm.
Carry the emperor.
Yeah, it's a noble type
yeah.
thing.
It's a chair where the men
Put him on that.
Oh, yeah.
carry him.
The next day, many poor people were bathed, fed, and clothed. Since the beggars were to be bathed, Maharaj's relatives and close women disciples, Kanyas, wished to bathe him also. He refused, telling them, I do not want a bath today, bathe only the poor. They insisted, however, on bathing him first, but he pointed to a destitute man standing nearby and said, If you want to bathe me, then bathe that leper. That will be tantamount to bathing me. Immediately his women disciples caught hold of the leprous man and, making him stand on a stool, began to bathe him with water that had been kept for the master. Maharaj's own sister was helping, and when she embraced the leper, she began to weep. She saw Maharaj, her own brother, in his face and bowed down to him. The leper was taken aback by her action and said, Mother, your God is there in the cage. Do not prostrate before me. After he was dressed, a cap adorned the leper's head and puja was performed to him. Afterwards, Maharaj said, I was in that leper. It was I who was bathed. Maharaj was happy to have Baba's disciples around him. When they were seated near his cage, he asked Gomai, "Do you love these persons?" She replied, "Yes, they are Merwan's, and as Merwan is yours, I love him. These people are also yours, so I love them as my children." Maharaj said, "That is good. Keep that attitude. You are a real mother. Love all in the world as your children." Later he told her, "I am hungry. Prepare bhajiyas, fritters of chicken, pea flour, and vegetables." Today, prepare bhajiyas, fritters of chickpea flours, and vegetables today. I like the way you prepare them with neem leaves, mixed with neem leaf chutney. Then bring it to me, and I will share it with these children. Gomai cooked the food and took it to Maharaj at his hut in the evening. He ate a couple and then shared the rest with Baba's disciples. He then narrated the story of how he used to eat neem leaf chutney and also give it to others to eat, but they never felt its bitter taste. He also told the story of how he had once asked a woman to prepare KHUSHRU, split pea dal and rice mixed with excrement, which she did before.
Oh my God. Oh no.
Before leaving Sakori, Gomai requested Vipazi Maharaj to come to Ahmednagar for Rustam and Freeney's wedding, but he did not favor the idea. Late in the night, after the villagers departed, Baba became restless and left Happy Valley with the mandali at 11:30 p.m., walking back to Ahmednagar in the dark. They reached KHUSHRU quarters at 2 a.m., exhausted. Rustam and Freeney's wedding was to be held in 4 days. Preparations were going on, and a number of guests had already arrived. Hostility had been brewing for some days, and there was an underlying tension in the compound, since very few of the Parsis and Iranis believed in Meher Baba's status as a guru. At that time, genuine knowledge of spirituality was limited among the Zoroastrian community. The Parsis had no mystical tradition for acknowledging saints and advanced souls, as did the Hindus and Muslims. They looked upon Meher Baba and his followers to be deluded, if not mad, and considered them fools to be mixed up in, as they called it, spiritual nonsense. The arrival of more outside Parsis and Iranis from Bombay and Poona only added to the tension and criticism burning among Gomai's relatives. In the local newspapers, too, more attacks against Meher Baba reappeared. Thus, indignation against Meher Baba and his followers was the chief topic of conversation among the skeptical Zoroastrian guests. On the morning of May 4th, while Adi was helping Baba with his daily ablutions, he informed him of the gossip going on behind his back and of the prevailing atmosphere of criticism. Adi made it clear that several people in his family's house, especially Gomai's brother, were inciting the other wedding guests against him. Hearing this, Baba abruptly left his room and stormed out of the compound. He had not said a word. Later, the mandali found out that he was not only annoyed by what Adi had remarked, but that Gomai had not yet returned from Sakori as he had instructed on a certain day. That evening, some of the men were in the bathrooms washing. That morning, some of the men were in the bathrooms washing, and some were in the middle of breakfast. But the master's standing order was that wherever he went, the mandali immediately should follow, no matter what they happened to be doing. Thus, hearing the cry that Baba was leaving, all the mandali hurried to follow him as quickly as they could, unaware of where he was going. Baba was rapidly walking through the city with a serious, aloof frown. He stopped on Station Road with Brahmanji, Nervous Padri, Masaji, Pindu, and Slamson following behind. At first they thought he was going to the railway station, and they wondered about their belongings left behind at KHUSHRU quarters. But after crossing the Sinai River, Baba instead turned toward the open plain. After treading 6 miles to the south, they saw some dilapidated buildings and a small village nearby. When they entered the property, they came across a watchman who informed them that the structures used to be a British military post and were owned by Khan Sahib KHUSHRU, Irani of Ahmednagar. The nearby village was Erangan. The mandali were surprised because, although they had heard about Erangan and Baba's intention of staying there, they did not know of its location. Golmai had only mentioned the name of the place and had planned to bring Meher Baba there after Rustam's marriage. Baba sat down under a neem tree by a well. He pointed out the recently constructed tomb of the Mohammedan saint Galori Shah, which was only a few feet away, then observed the neglected buildings, a small water reservoir, and a concrete platform. The mandali had neither a change of clothes, food, nor drinking water with them. Baba sent Ben Ramji and Slamson to Erangan to fetch something to eat. The men were thirsty, but despite there being a well close at hand, they could not draw water from it, as there was no. Ben Ramji and Slamson approached the Christian and told him, "We are pilgrims in need of food. We will gladly pay you for whatever you can provide." The man's name was Ganjaram El Parwar, and he explained that he could not afford anything more than bakri, unleavened millet bread, and chutney.
Oh, yeah.
And that it would take some time to prepare. "It doesn't matter how long it takes," said Ben Ramji, "as long as you will cook it. We shall return in an hour. Meanwhile, kindly loan us a bucket, some rope, and a cup." Gazaram obliged. All then refreshed themselves, drawing the water from the well. Meanwhile, Rustam, who was hot-tempered by nature, was very upset when he heard about Baba's sudden departure. He raced on his motorcycle through the city looking for them. He stopped people on the main road, asking if they had seen a group of men going by. One person told him he had seen a group walking toward Erangan village that morning. Rustam wasted no time in racing to Erangan, where he found Baba and the mandali sitting under the neem tree. With tears in his eyes, he ran to Baba and asked, why did he come here? Baba sternly replied, I no longer wish to stay in KHUSHRU quarters. But what about my wedding, pleaded Rustam. You promised to attend. I've changed my mind, was Baba's curt reply. But it was only because of your advice that I agreed to marry in the first place, Rustam exclaimed. If you don't attend the wedding, I won't go through with it. Baba calmed Rustam by explaining that though he would not be present at the wedding, he would come later to bless him and Frini. And he assured him that the marriage was being performed according to his wish. Baba then sent Rustam back to Ahmednagar, having him arrange to forward their belongings to Erangan. After Rustam was gone, Baba asked his companions, how did you find this place? All replied in laughter, there's nothing here. In a serious tone, Baba replied, what do you mean? For the fakir stays, there is everything. There is nothing lacking in the company of the fakir. Yes.
Starting with Ramji? Okay. Ramji then went to Gangaram's house and brought the freshly baked bread which all ate. They drank water by holding it in the hollow of their palms. Gangaram brought a kerosene lantern for them to use, and the master blessed him, saying, may there always be light in your house. In the evening, their baggage had arrived. The men spread out their bedding rolls on the platform and tried to escape in sleep. It was a restless night, however. Dust was swirling in the hot winds of May. A snake was killed late in the night. During World War I, some army units had been stationed there, and it was these abandoned stretchers which Khan Sahib had bought at an auction after the military had deserted the property. Adjacent to the railroad tracks was a small, well-constructed stone building that had been the Army's post office. Other than this, the rest of the buildings were in a dilapidated state. On the east side of the road was a large bungalow-shaped building
which had served as a mess hall for the troops.
It's mandali hall.
It was constructed of clay and contained 2 big halls, a bathroom, and verandas on both sides. It had typical shop-bod stone flooring and a Mangalore tiled roof. The next day, May 5th, the post office building was swept and cleaned, and that night Baba and the mandali stayed inside it. The following day, cleaning and repairing the mess hall was taken in hand, and the master himself helped in the work that lasted from morning to evening. On the 6th of May, Ghani, Ramjoo, Sadaji Dar arrived in Ahmednagar. These 5 men soon became aware that the daily routine in this deserted place was quite the reverse of what it had been at the Manzil in Bombay. Each man had to draw his own water hose. Then for the whole day the hard physical labor of cleaning and restoring the mess hall continued. Baba took the 5 men aside and told them, "The life here is unpleasant and rough. All of you will have to labor like coolies and do farming or seek employment in Ahmednagar, which would mean cycling 6 miles both ways every day. It would be better for you 5 to find jobs in either Bombay, Poona, Lonavala, or elsewhere. Even though you live somewhere else away from me, if you carry out my orders, my connection with you will remain intact. Remember, I am everywhere. I am always with you." Nevertheless, Ramjoo decided to rejoin Baba and the mandali, but Sadashiv, Munshi, and Vajiv Dar soon returned to their homes. Ghani commented that he had not yet made up his mind. Ahmednagar means forest village. Centuries ago, the area was a jungle or great forest. There are several legends connected with Ahmednagar's spiritual past. It is said that during 9th or 10th century, a Hindu perfect master named Vitoba, another name for Krishna in the Hindu tradition, stayed at the village. After some time, a temple dedicated to him was constructed. Because of this temple, the small village also became known as Chota Pandhari, in reference to Pandharpur, a celebrated place of pilgrimage for Hindus in honor of Vitoba, Lord Krishna. Later, during the 17th century, a Hindu saint named Wajibwa resided in Ahmednagar. Once, during the festival of Ekadashi, a large crowd had assembled to celebrate the day in the saint's auspicious presence. The bhajan singing became ecstatic, and in a rapture of divine intoxication, swaying his body to the fervent music, Wajibwa began rubbing his palms together. When his disciples asked him the reason, the saint replied, "I am extinguishing a large fire in the congregation tent at Pandharpur." His disciples were startled when they witnessed his hands turning black, like charcoal, and smoke rising from them. A few days later, news came from Pandharpur that there had been a tremendous fire on the day of Ekadashi, which had been surprisingly easy to extinguish. The fire was found to have started at the time when Wajibwa began rubbing his hands together. Wajibwa is also known for having had himself buried alive, called by Hindus Jivan Samadhi, in Sadguru Vitoba's temple in Ahmednagar. His tomb is there to this day. Hindus go on pilgrimage to this temple tomb, and each year a large religious festival is held outside the shrine. I'm glad there are no guests here tonight.
Really?
Yeah.
She went and
Never came
running from the place.
Another sacred place. I wonder how long you have to be a Baba lover to be able to not blink with this stuff.
You never get used to it, Esther.
I do. I'm used to
You
it.
just have to be born
I'm not.
in India and get used to living there.
I mean, anything a perfect master does, he knows what he's doing. So, that's all. Right. Yeah.
Sometimes the no is under the ground.
Another sacred place outside the village is the humble tomb of the Mohammedan saint Hazrat Maula Gilori Shah.
That's the one right below the Samadhi, huh?
This saint was still alive when Meher Baba first visited Arangaon village during May 1923. The saint was a resident of Ahmednagar but had his tomb built outside the city, and it was beside Galori Shah's empty tomb that the master had rested his first night at Arangaon. This saint's tomb is now part of the property of Lower Mehrabad and is near the tombs of Meher Baba's men mandali. Meher Baba changed his mind and decided to attend Rustam and Frani's wedding. He came with the mandali from Arangaon to Ahmednagar on May 8th. This time, however, they stayed at a different house, the top floor of Sarosh Manzil. Where's that? Anyway, true quarters. Wait, where is this? Oh, this is in, Arangaon. Oh, in Ahmednagar. Yeah, oh, okay. That was probably Vilu's. Sarosh Manzil.
Sarosh, Adi's cousin.
Yeah, and Vilu was his wife. So it's probably at Vilu's house. I mean, that's how we know it. Baba told the men to go to KHUSHRU quarters and under Ramjee's direction, render whatever help was needed. A large canopy had been erected and was beautifully decorated. Ramjee assigned the work of assisting the cooks in cutting and cleaning vegetables for the wedding feast. For the mandali, working in the kitchen was quite humiliating as they felt the glares of many wealthy guests, many of whom were European and fellow Parsis and Iranis. But in a life with a master, honor and insult are the same. The lesson to be learned was to go beyond caring about both. Rustam was a dynamic personality, and the other men were very fond of him. The Kasba Peth, Mandali, and Kak Saheb also came to Ahmednagar for the occasion, but the Mandali were so occupied in the kitchen that there was barely time even to greet them. This was the first time since Manzil-e-Meem that all the various Mandali from Poona, Lonavala, Bombay, and Ahmednagar had gathered together. However, they were allowed no opportunity to enjoy their reunion. Rustam's in-laws ignored Meher Baba's disciples, as their attention was devoted to seeing to the comfort of their more distinguished guests. On the 9th of May, 1923, with great éclat and in regal style, Rustam and Frani were married according to Zoroastrian custom. That morning, Meher Baba was dressed in a new suit of clothes, and puja was performed before him. Yeah, what's this picture?
Look at this picture, because I don't know.
Wedding picture.
Wedding.
Oh.
Where's the picture? Where's Goher? It says Goher Irani. Now, where is she?
Goher Irani, daughter of Rusi. She must be the one on the left. The
That
one on
tiny
the far,
little
the
girl?
tiny little girl. Who else would?
Is that Goher?
Molly.
Oh, cute. You think that's Goher,
I
Fred?
don't know.
Look at, take a look.
That little girl.
The little girl. Is that her? I thought she was, no, I thought she was older when she, but that's her father, Rusi. Pop. I thought they, that's true. They,
20, so she's near 80, so that's probably right.
I think she's 79 or
Yeah,
something.
so that's
79.
that would be her.
She's cute. But I don't understand. It says, let's see. Goher Irani,
Daughter of Rusi,
yeah.
Jehangir.
And then Golmai's daughter Piroja holding Sister Mani.
Where's
Where?
Sister Mani? On
Holding
Mani's left is Gulmai's younger daughter, Dolly.
Where's Mani?
Well, holding somebody.
Okay, where?
Well, maybe that one is Mani. Piroja,
Doesn't look like her.
holding Mani, Dolly, and who are those two, Liz? Those two are boys. Sina's daughter,
That's an
Khorshid on her
incredible
left, Baba's
picture.
brother. Well, I guess we'll have to figure it out sometime.
Shireen, oh yeah, Shireen's there.
Where's Shireen?
Here.
Oh, the mother, Baba's mother.
And there's, wow. Is Mara there? I guess she doesn't. I didn't see her.
Well, she was Franny's sister. She has to be there.
This is Franny here.
Yeah,
No?
Franny is Mara's sister.
Isn't that her?
Well, it looks like Mara, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's Franny.
Yeah.
Franny holding bouquet. Yeah, Rustam garlanded. And is that Rustam? Is that Adi's brother?
Yeah.
Adi Kairani's brother?
Right.
Rustam. Oh.
And they're also
Franny
Meru's
holding
parents.
Who's that?
Meru's parents.
Rustam and Prani?
Yeah. The
Oh.
food served after the wedding ceremony was scrumptious. Choice fish for the guests and pure vegetarian style for Baba and the mandali. However, Baba became upset when he discovered that the spoons and ladles used by the cooks had gotten switched, and consequently he forbade the men to eat. Needless to say, this European band and various entertainments were enjoyed by all the other 200 guests. Baba did not attend the public wedding ceremony. However, the couple later came to Sarosh Manzil, where Baba blessed and embraced them. A private Qawwali program was staged for Baba, the mandali, and a few selected members of Rustam's family. You want to go on?
Yeah, where are you?
Oh, right there.
The following day?
Yeah.
The following day, there was another Qawwali program. Led by a famous singer named Yasin Qawwal. Wow, he even was called Qawwal. Who had been specially brought from Bombay, and Baba thoroughly enjoyed his singing. After the music, Baba discussed the future of his mandali. It was decided that the Kasba Peth mandali should remain in Poona, and that Kak Sahib, what is that, Sahib or Sahib? Sahib should go to Bombay and stay with Munshi Rahim and Syed Sahib. The remaining 13 mandali would stay with Baba at Arangaon. They were his brother Jal, Gustaji, Adi, Babu Sakawala, Baidu, Barsop, Baramji, Masaji, Pendu, Nervous, Padri, Ramjoo, and Slamson. Sounds like the members of our gang or something. One of Rustam's relatives, Pilamai Hormuzd Irani, had come from Karachi for the wedding. After meeting Meher Baba at Sakori, she fell victim to the fire of his divine love and became his devotee. Years before in Bombay, she had met Gulmai, who was there visiting her brother, a doctor and Asma's father. The two ladies became friends. Pilamai confided her problems of depression to Gulmai, who suggested she meet Upasni Maharaj, and later took her to Sakori to do so. Pilamai gradually became a devotee of Upasni Maharaj, and subsequently heard about Meher Baba. During this occasion, Pilamai told Baba that she was ready to surrender her life to him and wanted to stay with him, but he persuaded her to return to Karachi. She reluctantly agreed on the condition that he visit her there, which he promised. The result of this, and the natural way in which the master accomplished his work, was to gradually unfold. On the surface, it looked as if Pilamai invited Baba to grace her house, but the master alone knows the secret way in which he reveals his intentions. Those who were continuously with Meher Baba had some understanding of how he manipulated events, making them seem natural. And occasionally, the mandali would fathom the hidden meaning behind the outward expressions of his work and statements. A dispute again arose between some of Gulmai's relatives over Khan Sahib's property. Some warned that Meher Baba would usurp Khan Sahib's land in Arangaon if immediate steps were not taken to prevent this. Coming to know of the heated quarrel, Baba and the mandali vacated Sarosh Manzil on May 11th. This time he proceeded directly to the railway station, but then turned onto a dirt road. After passing the Sina River, he stopped at a deserted graveyard, where he gathered the mandali around him and said that they would reside there. Although it was a very strange surrounding, the majority to stay in the graveyard. But Baba soon left and started walking toward the local Dharmashala, a rest house run by the municipality. They decided to stay there until a suitable accommodation could be located. Later, Baba remarked that he had definitely decided not to remain in Ahmednagar or Arangawan any longer. The mandali were hungry. Vegetables were purchased and cooked in the Dharmashala, and all ate them with bread from a local bakery. Baba's prolonged fast, which he had begun in Manzil-e-Meem, continued throughout this period. After the meal, Bairamji went to Arangawan and brought all their luggage by bullock cart, along with firewood to be used for cooking. Gustaji and Bairamji were under Baba's orders to eat only one meal a day at 11 a.m., and to drink water only between the hours of 11 a.m. and 1 p.m. Soon after, Ghani left Ahmednagar by train, as Baba instructed him to stay in Bombay until he was called. The next day, Baba told the mandali to pack everything in trunks except their necessary clothing, bedding, and a few indispensable items, and then take them to KHUSHRU quarters to be stored until they returned. KHUSHRU quarters was about half a mile away from the Dharmashala, and all the mandali, who were dressed in good clothes, labored like common coolies as they walked through the city carrying the trunks on their backs.
Sorry, you know what means coolie?
Coolie.
What means?
It's a common laborer.
Gypsy.
No, like coolie also is...
like porters at the train station.
Well, a coolie's a very... has to do...
Coolie, that's gypsy. My answer is coolie. People tell me why you live like a coolie is gypsy.
Well, I'm saying it could be a slang in some different.
Well, like they say when
Chinese
coolie is
wear these hats out in the sun and they work.
Yeah, it's
like coolies pull tongas.
You have to do the hardest labor. The hardest labor for the least returns. Menial, yeah.
Exactly.
Sweepers and stuff like that.
Oh, where am I? I lost my thing.
Pedestrians stared at them.
I lost my page and everything.
Pedestrians stared at them in surprise.
I'm totally lost. Where are you?
Page 517.
517, okay.
Pedestrians stared.
Oh, pedestrians stared at them in surprise, wondering who these people were. Some passerbys sneered at them, but the men had to trudge on, finally depositing their heavy loads. There had been exchanges of bitter words and criticism toward Meher Baba by certain skeptical Zoroastrians. Gulmai felt disheartened by Baba's departure from her house due to the hostile and disrespectful attitude of her relatives. She felt disappointed because she had invited the master to set up his headquarters on her husband's property at Arangawan. Like Shireen, Gulmai was destined to play a certain role. Who can measure the pain behind a mother's sorrow? Those are Bow's words. Khan Sahib was moved by his wife's devotion and hastened to the Dharmashala to try to correct the situation and appease Baba's feelings. He pleaded, "On behalf of my family, I beg your forgiveness. Accept my prayer to remain in Arangawan. Gulmai is beside herself with grief over what has happened. Meher Baba no home, and at the same time he has everything. He only stays in one particular place for certain reasons. I do not wish to create differences or divide your family. At this, Khan Sahib earnestly pleaded with him to reconsider, and finally Baba agreed to return. So after a 3-day stay in the Dharmashala, the men led by Baba walked back to Arangawan on May 13th and stayed again in the post office building. Sunamasi Irani and her daughter Khorshid, that's Khorshid that we know. Sunamasi Irani and her daughter Khorshid had come from Bombay to attend Rustam's wedding. On one occasion, Baba advised them both to stay in Ahmednagar so they could regularly come for his darshan at Arangawan. Before she returned to Karachi, Pilamai Hormuzd Irani also daily began having Baba's darshan, and on one occasion he told her, "Gulmai is my spiritual mother, but remember you are my spiritual sister, so you should stay in close contact with me." Thus the master started gathering a close circle of woman disciples. This woman, this Pilamai, can you imagine? I mean, apparently she's a special soul and she's depressed. That's kind of mind-blowing, you know? I guess there's all kinds of depression. Probably didn't feel any better, though. Mera J. Irani did not attend her sister's wedding. While preparations were being made for Frani's marriage, Mera was staying in Sakori with Upasni Maharaj. Under his guidance, she was engaged in the servile labor of carrying stones, earth, and other building material on her head in a gamela. Wow. An iron container. Construction work was in progress in Sakori, and all of Maharaja's kanyas, female devotees, were helping in the work. Although Mera came from a wealthy family and had never done such lowly task in her life, she did not hesitate to share in such labor under the spiritual direction of Upasni Maharaj. As the day of the wedding approached, Mera's knee suddenly became swollen. On this pretext, Maharaj did not allow her to attend the wedding in Ahmednagar, and Mera willingly abided by his decision. But the real reason for his disinclination to send Mera and for the mysterious swelling on her knee was learned later when her mother Daulat discovered that certain relatives had come to the wedding with the intention of discussing their son's marriage to Mera. A Sadguru, a Sadguru is omniscient and knows the past and future. Knowing Mera's destiny, Maharaj had not allowed her to go to Ahmednagar.
Wow. I figured it had to do with meeting men. She didn't want her to meet a man there.
Yeah, what about Esther? What about Upasni Maharaj gave her a ring? She used to wear a ring that Upasni Maharaj gave her.
Oh, I didn't know that.
You didn't know? Oh, one of her rings was given to her by Upasni Maharaj. I thought you might know the story. Oh, wow, this is amazing. The repair work in Arangawan of cleaning the mess hall, applying plaster to its ruined walls, and fixing the roof commenced again soon after their return. There was little time to oneself. Baba's orders came first. Each man became more involved with his duties than his person. Right after the mandali finished their breakfast of bread and tea, they would be occupied with this work the entire day. Some would draw water out of them, would prepare the clay mud plaster, and others would apply it to the walls. At noon there would be an hour's respite for lunch of rice and dal. In the evening, dinner consisted of a potato dish with bread. For long intervals during this period, Meher Baba would fast only on liquids, taking no solid food. After the repairs were finished, the structure was whitewashed. Being unaccustomed to painting, the mandali's hands became severely blistered, and despite applying oil and lotion to them, the pain lasted for several days. After several days of work, the mess hall was finally reconstructed and ready for occupancy. Leaving the post office on the evening of May 22nd, the mandali, each carrying his own baggage, moved into the mess hall quarters. Baba selected particular spots where each man was to spread out his bedding. On the right side, a small room was reserved for Baba. In his room, Upasni Maharaja's photograph was hung, with burning incense placed before it. During the night, as the mandali were talking, Gustaji felt something soft under his pillow, and when raising it, found a snake. Padri immediately killed it. They wondered from where it had come, since no snakes were seen while repairing the building, and Gustaji had spread his bedding after thoroughly sweeping the area. They had killed some scorpions, but had not seen one snake. Meher Baba then remarked, "In order to be on the safe side, let's move back to the post office." So all again shouldered their belongings and the bedding rolls, and in the dark walked back to their original shelter. While they were making themselves comfortable, Baba said, "Arangawan is not such a good place. It's no good remaining here now. Think of some other place which is free of snakes and scorpions." Several places were mentioned, but none were approved by Baba. Pendu then suggested traveling to Quetta. Baba liked this prospect since he had promised Pilamai to visit Karachi. Baba later concluded, not only should we leave Arangawan, but we should also leave Ahmednagar, Bombay, and India altogether, and go to Persia by route of Quetta and Karachi. Baba had previously thought of farming the land at Arangawan. Preparations had been underway for some days. Bullocks had been ordered, and a pump was to be installed at the well. Rustam had already sent the pump, but the very next day it was returned to him, and the order for the bullocks was summarily cancelled. Before leaving Arangawan, the topic of giving a name to the place was discussed, and the master renamed it Mehrabad. Abad meaning a prosperous settlement or a flourishing colony. A large signboard was painted, and Nervous nailed it between two poles and planted it near the railroad tracks. Arangawan was then a quiet, placid setting. Had anyone who witnessed this any idea of how important this place would become in the future? How fortunate these few men were to be with Meher Baba when he first stayed there? The history of mankind's pilgrimage was being transformed there. Many years later, the world would realize the significance of these days in May 1923, when this land was sanctified. It was to flourish. Mehrabad, not Arangawan, was the name that would be remembered by our age. Ooh, look at Baba in this picture. I love this picture. Wow.
Wow, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Carmen's village, Arun's forest. Forest village.
Well, I think the trees were all cut down for some reason. By the army or during the Civil War.
Almost a desert.
Really? Really?
And then they planted trees recently.
Oh, yeah.
They do some serious walking, too.
Oh, my God. And that heat? That heat?
Coolies, you know. In America, they had brought in the 20s Chinese people, and they worked as laborers in America, building the railroads and all. And that's where the word Chinese coolie comes from, not a gypsy.
Yeah.
I asked to call it gypsy.
It's a different pronunciation.
Holy, we call it holy.
That's different.
That's
not
different.
KHOLI.
Yeah.
In English word, the
Coolie.
coolie means a servant or a laborer.
Yeah.
Okay, that doesn't mean here.
Almost a slave.
No.
Almost a slave labor.
That the labor,
Yeah.
call it
Not paid labor.
No.
You probably get minimum.
I love this.
Less than minimum.
Less than
wage.
minimum.
gypsies, today lives here, tomorrow lives there,
That's
so tomorrow
not-
they are there.
Gypsies make their own living.
Look at Adi's young picture in this one.
Sai Baba,
On the floor.
Alan
Joe?
was carried in a
Joe
palanquin when he went
Gustaji.
for
This is
landing.
Joe. Gustaji.
Exactly. There's money right here.
Adi.
There's money.
Ramjoo.
Girl that-
Which one is mine? What page is that, Bill?
There's money.
Oh, yeah. God. Oh,
See her?
well, yeah, I can't recognize her, though. I just see.
No, you.
I know, but she has a little picture in her book, too.
Just holding system on.
Holding her, with just her arms around her, sort of.
So which one's going here? Still that one?
I guess that must be Go Hair. That's so cute.
This is the
that one.
Ahmednagar Parsi Fire Temple. That's still on that road.
No, I know.
What a bunch of people. This is great.
This is Baba's brother Jal.
Which one?
Taller boy.
Where, Suhas?
Next to him.
Here, the bigger one?
Right.
Oh, and then the little one?
That I don't.
On her left, Baba's brother,
Sorry, Adi Jr.
Adi Jr.
Khorshid is the one with the flowing hair.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, Suna's daughter, Khorshid.
He lives there down in the office, in the Khorshid. Same Khorshid.
Yes.
Khorshid, yeah.
Roja, Mani, Gohar, Dolly,
So she's a lot older than Mani.
Khorshid.
This is Khorshid,
Little
I
boy
guess.
is Baba's
It looks
brother,
like her, kind of.
Adi
Yeah.
Jr.
Wow. Interesting. Yeah, and she does look a lot like Mara Franey to. Pretty.
I wonder what happened to them. There's some things.
I
We never
wonder.
hear about them.
I've only heard just that they used to live right there in KHUSHRU quarters.
No, Mexico, huh?
KHUSHRU quarters is
Mexico?
now the residence of Mr.
No, not this one. No, that's Franny that was married to Adi Jr. Adi Jr. Yeah.
Who's now in
This is Mara's sister, Franny.
the office.
Right here.
Ah.
She look like her?
Nice.
Kind of pretty.
I have glasses to look through it. Next time I bring my glasses, I look at it.
Kind of similar. Certainly not. No one looks like Mara. What can you say? Yeah. You want to.
I'm going to have to leave pretty soon, Fred. I'll read a few
Well, what
pages,
time
couple
is
of
it?
pages, and then if you would kindly excuse me. It's almost 9,
Okay, we could fit it.
but I'm getting a major headache.
Oh.
Just a cold.
Oh.
No, just I've not been feeling well.
Oh, okay.
It's in the cold weather.
Okay, couple pages.
I will read though to Karachi, Quetta, and Gujarat. So now he's decided to move everything out of the area. Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
It's a beautiful
This
picture
might
of
be
Baba in
your cure. This
1923.
might blow your sinuses out.
Well, I gotta take something like Alka-Seltzer. It's all clogged up.
Uh-huh.
On May 25th, 1923, Mayor Baba ordered everything from Mehrabad to be transferred to KHUSHRU quarters. Only beddings and a few necessities were taken on the journey. That morning, Baba walked alongside the path of the railway tracks from Mehrabad, reaching Ahmednagar train station. Take it easy. Reaching Ahmednagar train station at 10:30. A few of his followers from Ahmednagar were at the station, and they reverently bade him farewell. Mayor Baba was accompanied by the Zoroastrian women, Pilamai with her son Vittal, Gulmai, Khorshed, and Suna. Also with Baba were the 14 men mandali, Adi, Babu Rao, Baidul, Barso, Beramji, Gustadji, Masaji, Nervous, Padri, Pendu, Ramjoo, Sarosh, Slamson, and his brother Jal. The train left at 12:30 in the afternoon and reached the village of Manmad in the early evening. It's a major junction in India, Manmad, with connections. Conversing on various topics during the journey, Baba kept the minds of all focused on what he said, not allowing their attention to wander. When the train reached Sanchi and passed the great sculptured stupas dedicated to Lord Buddha, Mayor Baba remarked about Gautama the Buddha and told several revealing stories about his life and times in India over 2,500 years ago. One interesting comment about Buddha was that Gautama was physically perfect or had a perfect body in comparison with other avatars. Pilamai had brought a small chair for Baba to sit on in the train. However, he did not use it and asked her why she did not sit on it. Humbly, Pilamai answered, "How could I sit on it when you are sitting on a bench? I have nothing but respect for you. When you don't respect my words, how can you respect me?" said Baba. "Only if you sit in the chair according to my wish will I believe you truly revere me." Pilamai countered, "But this chair is meant for you. It is not proper for me to occupy your seat." But Baba said, "You are my spiritual sister, and therefore you, more than anyone else, should follow my orders and see that my wish is fulfilled." Pilamai said, "I would sacrifice my life for you, Baba, but I cannot occupy this chair. I would feel ashamed to do so in your presence when you are sitting on an uncomfortable bench." Baba sternly said, "You revere your feelings of shame more than me. And since you cannot carry out even my smallest wish, how could you ever hope to sacrifice your life for me? Do not think it is so easy to give up your life for my cause. Give up your life by living, by dying to your own desires." Pilamai pleaded, "Baba, I don't understand anything about spirituality, but this is an expensive and comfortable chair. I only want you to sit on it. I bought it for you alone." Getting up, Baba angrily flung the chair out of the window of the moving train.
Baba did? Wow.
Then did Pilamai realize that the master valued nothing in this life except obedience to his wishes. It's more important than last wish. Baba did not say another word to Pilamai. After some time, her son Vittal was constantly crying. It disturbed Baba, who told her to stop his crying. Pilamai realized that she must do as he instructed, so she tried her best to quiet the child. She gave him milk, but he threw it aside and continued crying. Desperate, Pilamai took him to the toilet room and stayed locked inside. Vittal finally stopped his tears, but as soon as Pilamai would bring him out of the lavatory, he would begin all over again, forcing his mother to hastily retreat back inside. For almost 2 days, Pilamai's confinement in the foul-smelling toilet continued until the train reached Agra in northern India, where all disembarked on May 27th. Agra is a tourist town and the train station is quite busy and crowded. Besides the women's 4 large trunks, the baggage contained the men's heavy bedding rolls and their luggage. Mayor Baba had forbidden the mandali to hire coolies at the station. These are the porters that come with the red. And so again, these well-dressed men shouldered and carried the belongings on their heads. This displeased the poor coolies who were expecting to be hired. The station master also did not like it, so he prevented the mandali from crossing the railway tracks, forcing them to go far out of their way across a bridge. Slamson was in charge of the travel arrangements, and because of his instructions, the group took the wrong road through the city. This mishap resulted in a heated argument between him and Ramjoo, which Baba broke up. After settling in at the Empress Hotel, Baba asked the men, "Are you ready to do any type of work? Under Bairamji's supervision, you will have to do the work of coolies and sweepers. If you're unwilling to do it, now is the time to say so. You will then not be bothered with any work during the entire journey." Although they disliked the idea, they agreed. Shortly thereafter, Baba led everyone to see the city's main attractions, the Taj Mahal and the Agra Fort. However, it was not such an enjoyable experience because it was terribly hot. The next morning, they went to Mathura, where they stayed in a Hindu dharmashala. There, too, they played the role of coolies. Besides all their heavy luggage, the men had to carry dozens of watermelons for Baba, Bairamji, and Gustadji, who were fasting on liquids by drinking watermelon juice only once a day. The other men would also enjoy the fruit, but did not enjoy lugging them around from town to town. The men had a bath in the great Jamuna River and washed their soiled clothing. Mathura abounds with hundreds of monkeys, and though precautions were taken, one mischievous monkey managed to run away with Masaji's pants, which he recovered after a lengthy chase. Baba found the incident quite funny. The monkey took Masaji's pants. That afternoon, all accompanied Baba to various temples where Babu Rao performed the worship ceremonies according to Hindu rites. At some temples, Baba would prostrate himself before poor people or distribute money to them. Mathura is famed as the birthplace of Lord Krishna, and the master took the mandali to the enshrined temple house where Krishna was born over 4,000 years ago. There he ordered all to offer their obeisance. In the evening, they had a ride in the boats along the waters of the Jamuna River. On one occasion, Baba casually inquired of Adi if he found this tour enjoyable or not. Adi replied, "Enjoy it when one is about to pass out from exhaustion." Baba became irate and scolded him. "Only this is real Anand, bliss or joy. What do you know? Do you hear me?" Adi lost his temper and retorted, "No, I do not hear you." At this, Baba slapped him so soundly that his eardrum was injured and his ears started oozing blood.
Oh, I could feel it.
Later, Baba tenderly caressed Adi's ear while Adi repented for expressing his insolence. For several days afterward, Baba would inject medicine into his ear, nursing him.
Did he lose his hearing?
I think he told that story to my mother. He just smacked.
Oh, he must have hit him hard. Oh my God.
It's okay. Baba's.
But Baba had a tremendous amount of energy due to his strength. Shall we pause there because they're going to Karachi?
Why don't you just continue for a little bit? I want to get to the pictures.
Okay.
Oh my God.
A lot of pictures coming.
Baba could be angry too.
That's called Jalali.
Jalali, yeah.
And perfect masters
Manifestation
do get angry
of Baba. Yeah. Manifestation.
Because they see through your sanskaras and through your mind and through your energy and through your body. They have that inner vision and they see things that you don't see and they're trying to remove that
He also creates bad karma to defy the avatar, so we had to kind of remove the bad karma in her. I think that was
that's true.
karma, like maybe.
He helps to remove your karma. His grace removes your karma.
Well, but if body created bad karma by defying him, maybe that removed the karma. I mean, maybe that's what was required.
Yes. Mir Baba was happy when they arrived in Karachi on May 31st. Hormuzji, Pilamai's husband, Bailey, and other devotees were waiting at the station to welcome them. Bailey's sister had moved to Karachi and Baba had sent him ahead to assist with travel arrangements. Baba rode to Pilamai's house in a Victoria horse carriage and relaxed there. Within a few days, those residing in Karachi already knew Mir Baba came for his darshan. During this time, Baba's hair had grown quite long and curly. It was brown with strands of gold and red. While staying at Pilamai's, he asked Gulmai to comb his hair. It was the first time that the master had one of the women mandali comb his hair. Gulmai did so with a new comb and brush, and from that day on, she carefully preserved all the loose hair.
They all did too.
Pilamai made everyone comfortable in her home. Later, she guided Baba and the mandali on a sightseeing excursion to places of interest in Karachi. It's now in Pakistan. One day, Baba went to visit his paternal uncle Khodadad and his aunt Banu, who had moved to there from Bombay. Afterwards, Baba visited Bailey's sister's home. On June 4th, Baba took a train to Malir, a small village 2 stations away from Karachi, for a picnic. At Malir, he helped to shoulder the watermelons and walked 2 miles to a nearby stream. There the master bathed and washed his own clothes. The mandali ate their lunch, but he had only watermelon juice. Ramjoo had to shoulder an uneaten watermelon back to Karachi, but along the way it slipped off his shoulders and broke apart, so he was spared transporting the cumbersome burden. Pilamai's brother Rusi Jahangir was residing in Quetta with his wife Khurshid and their children. His sister was married to Gulmai's nephew Dinshaw, Sarosh's brother. The family had attended Rustam's wedding in Ahmednagar and had met Mir Baba there. Khurshid had once taken her children to Manzil-e-Meem, where she met the master for the first time. Rusi was Pendu's former boss in Quetta and quickly became devoted to Mir Baba. Mir Baba had a particular purpose in wanting to visit Quetta, as 2 special young ladies of his circle were waiting there, the daughters of Rusi and Khurshid, named Goher and Katie. At that time, no one knew of Baba's reasons for going to Quetta. Such things only came to light when the results of his inner work were manifested. Pilamai's contact with and surrenderance to the master and Pendu's former place of employment were links in a chain of events forged by the inner workings of Mir Baba to connect his circle members with him. On the 7th of June, after spending a very pleasant week in Karachi, Baba departed with the mandali for Quetta. Pilamai had spared nothing in seeing to Baba's comfort, and he appeared pleased with his visit and her consideration. The group reached Quetta the next day. For the master's privacy, Rusi had rented a house on Bruce Street next to his own. Baba stayed on the first floor while the men mandali stayed upstairs. Rusi owned a restaurant and saw to his guests' food and general well-being. The Zoroastrian and Mohammedan mandali's meals were prepared at Rusi's restaurant. The Hindu mandali had their own separate vegetarian cooking arrangements in the house. And then we have a picture here, a photograph of Rusi Irani, seated on a chair.
Boy, he's quite tall. Look at him.
Yes. Goher Irani with friend and sister Katie, wading in a mountain stream in Quetta. Although it was bitterly cold in Quetta, the men had to take ice-cold baths according to the master's orders, while the residents of Quetta would seldom even bathe with hot water during the freezing winter. Despite the cold weather, Baba did not stop fasting and would drink only warm milk and almond broth in the mornings. He had plain dal in the evenings. Baba played with all of Rusi's children, but he was most attentive to two of his daughters, Goher and Katie. Goher was only 7 years old and Katie was 3. Baba became their perfect playmate and would teach them games.
That can't be Goher. Do you think this little tiny girl in the wedding picture?
Sure.
8 years old?
Yeah.
8?
No.
Well, maybe that's not her.
It says Goher Irani,
Yeah, but we don't know which one it is.
It could be a different.
Yeah, because she can't be 8 years old.
Became their perfect.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Katie once remarked to her father, Mayor Baba is such a fine gentleman, don't allow him to leave. While playing caroms one day, you know, that's the...
It's like checkerboard.
It's like a pool.
Pool,
Yeah,
what you flick,
You flick the coin to hit the others. While playing caroms one day, he quietly lifted up one of the pieces. Goher complained to him, Baba, you're cheating. Play honestly. The master laughed. Rusi was an amateur magician and would stage magic shows every evening for Baba's enjoyment, telling jokes and funny stories as he performed his tricks. Rusi also took Baba and the mandali to different orchards and gardens surrounding Quetta, especially the beautiful garden of Jamasp, and showed them the city's many scenic spots. Baba was quite happy in Quetta and pleased to be in.
Look at this
and
picture
look at this photograph of Baba wearing a huge fur coat.
Look at his face.
He looks kind of...
I've never seen Baba that
Oh,
face.
my God.
Look at his eyes.
Oh, he
how
looks
striking.
Like,
they are.
he's just somewhere. I mean, I've never seen that. If you showed me a picture of Baba, he doesn't look like our Baba that we know.
He was 29 years old in 1923.
Yeah, and he looks like he's still in that period where he hasn't come down yet.
Exactly.
Well, may I end here?
Okay, that's a good place.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
Jai Baba.
If you wish to continue.
No, that's fine. We'll meet next week and we'll pick up
next
here.
Week's going to be your last
I'm saying
reading?
Be the last, and then I'll leave the following Wednesday for India on the 20th, but Rosalie is going to, I guess, be able to run it on the 20th, but the 27th is the Thanksgiving Eve, so and there won't be a meeting that night. Right. And then they'll resume again on December...
when are you coming back?
December 4th. I'll be back on the 14th.
December?
So, yeah, 14th.
So you're going for almost 3 weeks.
25 days.
So you'll be back.
Inshallah, we'll be alive. Christmas Eve, we were by you all the time? I don't know,
no,
remember.
Not Christmas Eve.
What was that? Christmas Day? By
Christmas
Louis?
Day at Lolo's.
Okay, and then New Year was by you.
New Year's, we'll take...
We'll see what can do. Maybe we go India that time, yeah.
Okay.